Welcome to the Board Game Spotlight Podcast. Get ready for an entire hour of gaming goodness, brought to you by our incredible sponsors: IV Studios, Fireside Games, Van Ryder Games, Renegade Game Studios, Mythic Games, This Little Bean of Mine, Game Toppers LLC, Kick Track, Arcane Wonders, AEG, Draw Lab Entertainment, and of course, our amazing Patreon supporters. This podcast would not be possible without you. And now, here are your hosts, Derek and Lizzy Funkhauser.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spotlight On series. I'm your host, Derek Funkhauser, and today we have with us Ben from Prometheus Game Labs. Say hi.
Hi.
How are you today?
Yeah, good. Enjoying third day of the campaign. I think it's third day today. Third day, yeah.
Yep. So we're here to talk with Ben about specifically Microbot's Duel, which is currently live on Kickstarter. And they, like Ben said, they're entering their third day of the Kickstarter campaign. They're getting close to $10,000. But really, Ben and I have chatted about it, and his goal is 1,000 backers. That'd be really nice, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That would mean it's reached the last campaign. So if we beat it, even better. Have to beat each one.
Awesome. Yeah, right. You got that little carrot. You're trying to get those.
Got to set a new
do
record.
Better than the previous, for sure. So Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself and specifically why you started, Prometheus Game Labs and kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So my full-time job is as a cybersecurity consultant, which I've been doing for kind of 14 years. Might be even longer now, actually. And in May 2020, I think it was, I needed something kind of creative to do. There was a lot of downtime during the pandemic. So I was thinking, okay, what can I do that's kind of creative? I think I'd exhausted all my cooking recipes at that point, and I actually felt like making a video game. And I sort of started playing around with, I looked at some videos for Unity and things like that. And I was like, oh, you know what, this is going to be way too hard. And I was having a chat with my brother, and he said, oh, why don't you try making a board game instead? And I thought, actually, I don't know if this idea I've got will work as a board game. And then I think it was either the next day or maybe a week later, I was like, oh yeah, I could try making a board game. So I started listening to the Board Game Design Lab podcast quite a lot, getting some ideas. And I worked on, I would say, my first game for probably a couple of months. And then it was clear that wasn't going in a good direction. It was basically going to be, it was like sort of a dungeon crawler, I suppose, but a bit more lightweight and sort of family friendly. But I thought, okay, to make this any good, it's going to need so much stuff that it's going to be more expensive than Gloomhaven, but it's going to be a family game, and it's just not going to work. So, but I had kind of got the bug for designing, and instead of thinking like, oh, I'll just make a game and see what happens, I kind of thought, actually, I'd quite like to be a game designer. So I had a chat with a friend of mine who'd worked on previous games and on a Kickstarter campaign, and he seemed to know his stuff. And probably the best piece of advice he gave me was like, start with something small, kind of learn the ropes, and it's a good way to sort of learn the whole process as well. And I like being involved in everything and being hands-on. So that was kind of where Microdojo came from, was to try and make a super small game, but like offer a lot of game in a small package, basically. Without investing like tons of money and tons of particularly time as well up front to spend 5 years of my life making a great game and then find, oh, actually no one really wants this. So I started work on Microdojo in probably like August 2020, and then launched it in, I think it was May 2021. So it was about 9 months from sort of thinking about it to launch something like that. And then, Microdojo just took off amazingly. I was thinking like, oh, a couple of hundred backers.
Really well received, right?
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, the first campaign was like a couple of hundred backers would have been nice. So I thought like, 500 would be really great. And then someone said, what would be your goal? And I was like, oh, I don't want to say 1,000 because like if it doesn't happen, I'll be disappointed. And then it ended with 2,000 backers in the end, which just kind of blew me away. And that kind of gave me a good reason to keep going at it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's such a great boost to kind of like morale and obviously like, hey, this is something I can do, because there's a lot of people who want to do, kind of what you did, right? And we've chatted about this on the podcast before, and we've had some interviews with people, and really it boils down to kind of like what you did was just do it, right? And realize that your first couple attempts may not work, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that long term you can't get something to work, right? And just kind of being persevering through it, and that kind of thing. But you mentioned a great resource that I've been a big advocate, and Gabe Barrett is just phenomenal with the Board Game Design Lab. So they've got their community over on Facebook, and he's got a great podcast series. So if you're listening to this and you want to be an aspiring game designer too, I would definitely check out that resource.
Yeah, 100%. There's no
Yeah,
new episodes now, but there's about like 300 in the catalog, and each one
there's a
covers.
ton of stuff.
Yeah, I think basically every time I come up with a new game idea, and I think like, oh, I need a drafting mechanism, or you can find an episode on drafting games or deck building games or micro games or social games or something in there. So it's really good for that as well to pick and choose which
Absolutely.
ones.
So from Micro Dojo,
Mhm.
you went with another Mint 10 small
Mhm.
box travel size game.
Yeah.
And with Microbots specifically, this is from another designer. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I wouldn't say necessarily that I intended to keep doing small games. It sort of happened that it is going to go that way. I mean, my original plan was, oh, I'll do Micro Dojo, like it's in an envelope, it's cheap, it's basically I've invested little enough time. I mean, a lot of time and effort, but relatively small for a board game. But I've invested sort of little enough time and little enough money that if it fails or if I make mistakes that are costly, it's not going to bankrupt me. I think
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Stegmaier, I think, has got a brilliant story about a stretch goal they had. I think it was either for viticulture or scythe that he said would have basically bumped the shipping cost up, so that instead of making a couple of dollars per copy, they end up losing a couple of dollars per copy. And I could afford to lose a couple of dollars if I have 500 backers. If you end up with 3 million backers, suddenly that becomes an expensive problem. So I sort of set it up to be able to fail safely, I suppose. But that's sort of why it was a small game anyway. And I'd always intended like, oh, I'll then move on to publishing bigger games. And then Simon, who's the designer of Microbots, we've worked together on a few designs. He actually came up with the idea for the solo mode for Micro Dojo in the end. I'd come up with a few different things, and he said, oh, what about a priority system? And I ended up taking that idea and running with it. It worked really well. And so he approached me not to pitch an idea, just to say, look, I need a bit of help brainstorming this new idea for a game I've got. It's taking an old minting game that I made some time ago and sort of making
Mm-hmm.
that into a different type of game. And he said, "Oh, let me show you the game for context." So we played it, and sort of as we played it, I kind of realized like, oh, this would actually be a really good fit for the type of games that I want to make or to
Right.
continue to make. And I think that experience probably helped me realize what the brand was, because my original plan was, oh, I'll go make big games and probably bigger Euro games because that's the kind of games I like to play. And
Right.
actually I realized what I really wanted to keep making was like 1 to 2 player games that play in about 15 to 30 minutes but have a real like head to head experience where you really feel like you're trying to like outplay your opponent or outthink them. There's a um almost like a paper scissors rock. I don't know if that's quite the right. I've heard it called Yomi. This sort of levels, these layers of
Ah,
strategy, but it's not super
right.
common as a term. But like that whole, oh, I'm going to do this, but you know that I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do this, so I'll do something else. But then that I know that and like that whole sort of
You
thought
get into
loop.
that kind of tug of war, kind of cat and mouse, right?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
find really enjoyable. That sort of battle of wits type of thing. But it's there's always a bit of uncertainty in there, and if in 15 to 30 minutes you get outfoxed a few times, you can always just kind of re-rack and go again. So
Absolutely.
games like Airland and Sea and
Mm-hmm.
Raptor, Onitama, all of these kind of games that are sort of these nice dueling games that are sort of solid experiences in 15 to 30 minutes. Yeah, I've kind of gone off track a little bit, but
No,
that's
no, no.
basically
This honestly, this interview can go anywhere you want it to go. Totally
yeah.
interesting and no trouble at all.
Oh, if you let me talk, it'll end up being 2.5 hours long. So.
Well, I just I wanted you to have an opportunity because I haven't had a lot of a chance to really chat with you to get to know you
Yeah.
much. We did get a chance to do a live stream last night on the Board Game Spotlight. So if you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this interview, go take a look at that, and you'll be able to see that video. We've got some more stuff coming out for that. But
Yeah.
we had a great time with it, and just exactly what you
Yeah.
said was the kind of the outfoxed. In fact, in the play, Lizzy outfoxed me. I tried to guess what was going to happen, and I did not, didn't work out in my favor, but I still had a blast
Yeah.
because you're playing for 15, 20 minutes. And it's one of those experiences where you're like, okay, you know what? That was a great play. You got me. Let's reset and play again because I want, like, not necessarily revenge, but I want my shot, at trying
Yeah.
to a rematch.
Yeah, exactly. I saw it there. That was fun watching the stream. I saw you took a gamble at the end. Didn't want to spoil it too much, but yeah, that was a great reaction where you were like, "Oh, you did it."
She got me. She does that more often than not, but I try my best, and that's what's fun.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to the future, then you talked
Mhm.
about microbots kind of being
Mhm.
that catalyst for, hey, finding your identity.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any sort of I guess advice or anything for
Mhm.
anybody who might be listening to this to, like, you know, maybe they're starting out and they don't really know what they want to do or where their company's going, or maybe they're,
Mhm.
very small independent publishers or whatever. What would
Yeah.
you say for, like, finding your identity, like, through this kind of like this journey for you?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I've written a whole, probably too long article on all about sort of the branding side of things without that hasn't been published yet. So I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and one of the problems I think when you listen to like other designers, especially designers that have like, or anyone in any field, when they've already done something, it feels like, I think anyway, you've got this super clear like mission and purpose, and then when I started out in designing, I didn't really have, I had a vague idea of, yeah, I'll make a small game and see how it goes, and then hopefully these people will like it enough that they want to buy a big one when I make it. uh, Whereas now looking back, it's probably been almost 3 years now. It's easy to look back and say, oh yeah, this is my plan, like this is how it all works, and this is my goal. So for people starting off, I think it's fine not to have really a goal or a plan. Like I think the part of
Hmm.
the article actually that I wrote about this was like, instead of worrying like, oh, what is my brand or what am I doing, is kind of, rather than trying to define it from the start, I think letting yourself kind of discover it as you go. So like I've realized actually, if I keep making these sort of 1 to 2 player games that are quite sort of thinky and in this same experience, then the people that have liked the games that I've produced will probably like the next ones as well, and it makes it much much easier.
Right.
And it's
Right.
also much easier, I suppose, for taking other designs from people, is if they then approach me and say, oh, I really like the last two and this one fits really well with that theme, rather than, oh, I've got an 8 player social deduction game or something. You just don't know when you're starting out, so it lets you kind of do more, I suppose, more like repetitions, but in a good way. It all fits around the
Right.
same
Right.
thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important part. You've talked about, you're kind of building a natural um, following, like you said. So
Yeah.
if you are putting out games in your catalog that have similarities in certain aspects, then naturally you're going to find that the people that bought your last couple games are going to be more apt to go ahead and purchase your next one,
Yeah.
right? And there's something to be said about that because that's kind of, you're building, uh, you're building this brand kind of
Hmm.
naturally. Whereas if you're throwing a ton of different types of games at gamers,
Hmm.
it's going to be very hit and miss on if they like the people that bought your last one. This next one may or may not be for them, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's something to be said about risks like that for bigger companies
Hmm.
that, things like maybe a Jamie Stegmaier or an AEG,
Yeah.
that can take bigger risks on, not necessarily excluding previous buyers, but hitting different parts of the board game spectrum
Hmm.
because you've got like this huge diverse ecosystem of gamers that
Yeah.
enjoy things from 2 player mint 10 games all the way up
Hmm.
to 5 hour long euros, right? So
Yeah.
it's very interesting, and I think that some companies can take bigger risks and
Hmm.
others, need to stick with kind of trying to establish that. So
Yeah, and I guess bigger companies can, I suppose, can afford to have a few misses, whereas I'm sort of preparing myself that not every game I produce is going to be wildly successful. It's like, but
right.
so I know that at some point I'm going to have one that, yeah, maybe is a bit of a miss. I just hope it's not the next one, like
Right, right.
I hope
Or
it's the,
or the miss can be small enough to where you can continue to be like, you know what? All right, this was a, because I think out of every project you have
Mhm.
or every game that you go through, like there's going to be learning experiences from that, right? So you're going
Yeah,
to have an
yeah.
opportunity to learn from it, and you can take that forward and hopefully either not repeat a mistake, or
Hmm.
maybe it wasn't a mistake, maybe it was just a complete miss on theme or mechanics or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I found more often than not that I think most board games miss on not necessarily mechanically, but and not the theme, I think. Like
Hmm.
when themes mismatch or it's a theme that doesn't draw people in. And I know there's a segment of gamer that say, "Oh, a theme doesn't matter to me," but I don't think that. I think that subsect of gamers is very small that don't
Yeah.
actually care about the theme. So I think a lot of times when we see people like, "I didn't really enjoy this," I think it probably was just because they didn't feel immersed in the board game. Board games are very tactile experiences. They're very social.
Hmm.
And just like any other medium, like a movie or a book, if you don't feel invested in it, then you're
Yeah.
probably not going to enjoy it as much, right?
No, 100%. Yeah, absolutely agree. And for people that say, I would have said that like I'm someone that's like, oh, I don't care about, I just want the game to be good. I don't really care too much about the theme. Like I certainly don't care about cosmetic upgrades unless they actually are functional. I'm like, well, why would I want these extra pieces? And then I bought the minis for Anachrony, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a hypocrite then because I love them, and they 100% make the game better, even though they don't do anything that the tokens don't do. But they 100%
but
make the game better.
but that's a very interesting psychological analysis, right? Because you're like,
Yeah,
I already love this game.
yeah,
How could something like this make it better? And then you get a chance
yeah,
to actually use something like that, and you're like,
yeah.
wow,
And it's
I
the
don't know
same game,
how,
but
but
they're
there's just
painted and they
something
look
about
cool.
yeah, it's the table presence and just the
Yeah.
tactile experience. There's a lot of cool stuff, and yeah. So not to say
Same.
that you should not make mechanically interesting games because I think that's kind of
Hmm.
the fundamental basis, right? Like that's your ground level is making a solid game.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not going to hurt you if a great game has good art and has interesting themes and stuff, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and
like,
and and that goes sorry that goes to the microbots. Like one of the
mm,
things I talked about was the theme. Like even though it's a very abstracted way of fighting because there's
mhm.
no actual miniatures on the board, there's no actual moving pieces, the way that it still conveys a robot battling game, it's incredibly interesting. And I
Yeah.
really did feel like I was fighting an opponent, even though there was no physical
Mhm.
part of that, right? And it was very,
Yeah.
very cool.
I think it helps that because Simon based a lot of his inspiration for it on. He actually originally designed this as a video game, probably like 25 years ago, something like that, like a game that he programmed, I think, when he was in college. We've got an update
Hmm.
coming later with more of sort of the story behind it and how it came to be. But we also kind of imagined it as a bit like we call it Robot Wars in the UK. I think it's called BattleBots in the US. People
BattleBots,
people making
yeah.
robots at home. Yeah, so like that feeling and that sort of theme of having this like little robot that's sort of in the arena and it's fighting the other one. I think even if we didn't necessarily say, oh yeah, this card is exactly what would happen in BattleBots, it's more like I think that feeling somehow came through in the design process that when other people play it, it's like, oh yeah, it does feel like a little robot. You've sent your bot into the arena to have a duel and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And two, like I like the way that the abstractedness kind of led to like for me personally being able to kind of imagine, okay,
mm,
like maybe this is what this attack would look like, right? Or this is kind of what I could see happening as I'm
mhm,
playing this out. And that won't hit for everybody, but for me, that definitely I felt that I could definitely see that, and I thought that was really cool. And mechanically, I had a great time playing Microbots Duel because again, you've mentioned that cat and mouse and the outfoxing and
mm,
the playing of your initiative cards to try to go faster or later, and just the balance in general with the later cards feeling stronger,
mhm,
having more abilities to activate, but those faster cards having the ability to attack first because that could
yeah,
make a big difference towards the end of the game
yeah.
on if you're able to attack first. So
No, that definitely makes a difference towards the end. We found quite a few games come down to that last card played, and it's like, well, let's see whoever basically gets the first hit in is going to be the one to kind of finish it off. So, yeah, we've had
for
some really
sure.
close games. Yeah.
And also, if you're listening to this, you may go take a look at the Kickstarter page for sure, so you can get a sense of how to play the game or watch our live stream. But there's a card ability that lets you recharge, which is kind of like a refreshing of your power tokens, which give you extra damage or defense.
Mhm.
And that decision is extremely crucial
Yeah.
to being able to either survive late game because you've got those higher fives and fours that can
Hmm.
defend well, and that timing is really important. I realized in our stream, not to do any spoilers here, but I realized that I did not recharge soon enough.
Hmm.
I wanted to try something to where I kind of just went all in on the engine building,
Yeah.
and it could have worked, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's funny actually. So during sort of, I would say earlier playtesting, my play style in the game has evolved quite a lot over the last sort of 9 months or so. But yeah, Simon would quite often recharge early, and I would build up my sort of support and weapon rows much more. And I think, you know what, if I can get away with using my weaker tokens but building up the rows, like, so Simon would recharge, and I'd always think like, oh, brilliant! Like now I'm in a good position. I've got really strong, like I've built up my almost like my tableau. And then I realized that it would peter out like almost just before the end, and then he's in a stronger position now to kind of counterattack, and I'd end up losing. And
Yep.
yeah, there's that real balancing act between like when I recharge, because if you end up waiting until the last moment, you're so vulnerable when you recharge, you're just going to get a big shot to the
Exactly.
face. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's that
Uh,
trying to forecast or kind of like mentally like, okay, when is that opportunity going to come to where I can
yeah.
safely do that? And
hmm
that's a very, you're not going to see that in your first play of the game. So the game is very rewarding for multiple plays. And I think that's really important for a
Yeah.
game's longevity. So it's great.
And we've definitely found that we've started not just playing like, okay, what's the optimal play here, or how can I do the most damage, but we've started playing each other as we've started to recognize each other's play styles. So we do most of our testing on Tabletop Simulator, so I forget some, because we've gone so deep on the game, we've tried to add so much like interesting thought processes to the game, and then sometimes I forget like, oh, it's a £10 minting game. Like I forget, because we're playing on TTS and it's big and it feels like a big, full size
Yeah.
game to me. And I'm like, oh man, we're making this like deep game, and it's like, oh, it's just a minting
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, right. No, it's great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to let people know about, or anything that you want to shout out? I guess let us know where we can find you on social media at least, and
Yeah,
everything.
I'm on. I'll start with the first question actually. So
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got 99 Ninja coming later in the year. I'm intending to launch it at Essen. I'm going to be
Okay.
at UK Games Expo this year, and I'll just registered for Essen as well. So campaign should be live for Essen. I'm hope to have some prototypes made next month. That's a spin-off from Micro Dojo. So
Uh-huh.
similar, same box size, similar artwork and everything. But it's a game where you're laying transparent tiles of ninja, trying to surround the daimyo to. You don't assassinate them anymore; you replace them to make it a little bit more family friendly.
That's a
Um,
really neat idea. I'm very intrigued
yeah,
by that.
that's another one that I've signed from other designers. So that's from
Very cool.
Ivan Alexiev from PlayerLair, who's done a lot of playtesting for us, and Matt Ding, who I co-designer with Ivan, and I met him at UK Games Expo. So that's coming
Very
later
cool.
in the year. So we've got 2 games this year, and then I have a design that I need to work on for another micro game for early
Mhm.
next year. So that's everything that's in the works.
That's exciting.
Um,
That's great. You got a little roadmap there. That's important.
yeah, just need to get on and actually playtest the design idea I have, because it can always be done tomorrow, right?
Right. Right.
But yeah, that should be next year sometime. Uh, and yeah, so for social media stuff, I'm on Instagram at prometheus.gamelabs. I think there's a Facebook page which is the same, but there's also groups for the games. So there's one for Microbots and there's one for Micro Dojo. What else am I on social media? That's it. I don't know how to use Twitter.
That's
Um,
fair.
too old for TikTok. um, yeah, Instagram, and then there's the website. It's prometheusgamelabs.com.
Okay.
It's got a
Great.
blog where I make announcements and things as well. And
So quick question, because I've seen this in comments on the Kickstarter and also on social
mhm.
media. If you missed Micro Dojo, will there be an option to be able to get to buy that, or is it available now?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so it's available as an add-on, and someone that missed it had a brilliant suggestion, which is, do I have to wait until when Microbots fulfills to get Micro Dojo? And I was like, oh, actually, I could just add an express shipping option. So if you want to split it, you can order it, and then as soon as the pledge manager opens, which will probably be early or middle of March,
Hmm.
you can just order Micro Dojo separately, and then it'll get shipped out. So I figured that out with a fulfillment partner, but that'll be available to kind of get it now if you missed the
That's
campaign.
great.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Great idea. All right,
yeah.
that's awesome. So if you haven't checked it out or you haven't heard this whole podcast, we're talking about
Mhm.
Microbots Duel. It's currently live on Kickstarter. They have 19 days left. Again, would love for your support and help for Ben. Let's get that 1,000 backers at least, and let's push this thing forward. But go take a look at the live stream we had on the YouTube page. Also keep an eye out on the Facebook group for other posts and videos we'll have. And Ben, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Hey, everybody, it's Derek back with the Board Game Spotlight podcast, joined by our friend.
Hello, friends. It's Ruel Gaviola.
You may notice that we don't have Lizzy here. Lizzy's with the baby. The baby started teething. So we have 2 teeth, 5 months old now.
Wow. I can't believe it's been 5 months already. Oh my gosh. I remember when you guys, oh, wow.
Doesn't time fly?
Yeah.
It's so, and it's even been the case with our 5-year-old with Sebastian. You blink and he's in kindergarten and he's about to, at the end of this year be a first grader. And it's just,
oh my gosh.
It's very interesting how people say, oh, you blink and they're graduated through high school. And
yeah,
that's so true. You never really think about it until you start having kids, or like you even just kind of watch people grow up and you're like, wow, how did this happen so quickly? Like, where did the time go? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got some games to talk about tonight, and a couple different opportunities for talking about like how to start a game group or a game night and stuff like that. But let's start off with what we've been playing recently.
On the Toppers, brought to you by Game Toppers LLC. Game Toppers are a portable gaming top that converts your existing table into a high-quality yet affordable gaming solution.
Ruel, why don't you start?
All right. So I want to lead off with this. So I played a bunch of games over the last month since the last time we spoke. And at the end of the month, we had I had mentioned this the last episode, Tabletop Live Network. It's a monthly event that I do with the Brothers Murph. We coordinate it. Streamers from around the world, we live stream for 2 days on Twitch straight. It's a marathon. And one of the things I did so the TLN, Tabletop Live Network, has its own channel on Twitch. So I took over that for one slot. And what I did, my buddy Daryl and I joined me. We played games using a chess clock. So we call the segment On the Clock, and we take board games and we look at the lowest amount of time it's recommended by BGG. So we did this last month with Stone Age, and Stone Age that says 60 to 90 minutes. So Daryl and I challenged ourselves. We're going to play this in 30 minutes. So that means 15 minutes a person. And the thing is, as you make your move, you hit the chess clock and the other guy, the other player gets time. And our rule is if you run out of time, you just straight up lose the game. So
wow, okay,
we played we played an entire game of Stone Age, Derek, and I couldn't believe it. We got through the whole game. We each had about 3 minutes left, so we played it in less than 30 minutes. And the score was like 224 to 220. It was insane. It was like so close.
That's incredible.
It was so much fun though, and for us, I think it works really well if you know the game really well. If you're just learning game, this is not something you do. But for us, it's a way to like sort of reinvigorate our love for certain games and So on, you'll appreciate this on that event I was talking about. We played Canvas. And I haven't played Canvas since I played with you and Lizzy.
Yeah.
But when I visited, almost 2 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
And so Daryl has his copy. I was like, oh, we should try it. So our goal was to play Canvas in 14 minutes, 2 players. And we ended up under 10 minutes. So it was about about almost 5 minutes each to do our moves. And
I love that.
You're not playing optimally, of course, but
sure.
It was still pretty good game, pretty close game. I think it was like, I don't know, I forget the scores, but it was only like a 10-point difference. But oh my gosh, it's so much fun doing games like this, games that you've already played and you really enjoy, and you want to just try a different spin on it. And if you want to just play a game and not worry about AP, this is the way to go. Put a chess clock on it. It's fantastic.
I love that idea, especially like when you're talking about maybe trying to challenge yourself too, where like, okay, let's say you've played a game 15, 20, 30 times and you're like, okay, how can I challenge myself to make this a little bit more difficult, but also have to think quickly on your feet? Because, board games, you typically do get a chance to take a moment to soak in what your opponent's done, right? So you can kind of think about, okay, this is what they did. This is what I want to do. And I have to imagine that doing it this way also means you have to pay attention on your opponent's turn. That way you can kind of be a little bit ahead of time, so you don't have to sit there waiting, because once they hit their clock, time's on for you, right? So you're like, all right, it's make it or break it,
That's exactly it. Yeah. The other game that we played I really enjoyed was King Domino. So that's usually
I love King Domino.
Isn't that a great game? It's so good.
It's so underrated. It's
and just the simple mechanisms, but they work so well together. So that's a 15-minute game. Derek, we played it in under 4 minutes. It was so funny. And it was literally just place a domino, move it, place a domino, move it. And, that one was really close. I think I had like 10 seconds left and Daryl had like 8 seconds left or something. But, it forced us, you're just, like you said, you have to watch your opponent because the more time that you spend on your turn, obviously it hurts you. So if you can sort of plan out while they're doing their thing, then you're good. And it was another close game, maybe like a 5-8 point spread or something like that. But oh man, we're totally hooked. Fun. I think Daryl and I have done like 6 games like this, and we're going to continue doing it over on my Twitch channel, just playing games, using the chess clock. So yeah, it's sort of new to us, and I really, really enjoy this.
Yeah, I really like that idea. When I first saw you posting about it, I was like, oh, I felt like we had talked about something like that before, maybe come up in conversation. And I was like, oh, I love that you're doing it. I love that you just went for it.
Yeah, we had talked about this a while ago here on the show. It was an idea that the brothers Murph and I were talking. We wanted to do Twilight Imperium in 2 hours. So to do it, the only way to do it is everyone gets 20 minutes and, you just hit the buzzer or timer, and with 20 minutes, 6 players, that's 120 minutes. That's 2 hours, So
right. And then if your time's up, you lose, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if we could do Twilight Imperium, but we're going to give it a shot. And I figured, what better way to test the system than try all these different games and see how it goes. So
yeah, that's very interesting. That sounds like you had a good time with that.
Yeah. So I played a bunch of new games too, but I'll save that for next. That's just one of the new things I've been doing. What about you, Derek?
Sure.
What's been on your table?
So recently we got a chance to play a few new games currently on Kickstarter. You've got, and I think you had a chance to play this Search for the Lost Species from Renegade Games.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a spiritual successor, a sequel to Search for Planet X. And it is such a great game. It's such a great deduction game. The way that the app is incorporated keeps things clean and smooth. But it's really, really thinky, and there's some really clever things you can do in the game. But the thing that I appreciate the most about what Renegade has done is the fact that it's all the components. Their whole thing with the game is eco-friendly, right? So they're using factories that don't produce gray water, and they use sunlight to create energy, like solar energy. They're not doing any plastic in the game. They're doing some sort of, I'd never heard of this before, but I think they're doing like something with sugar cane for either like the meeples or the cards or something. I was reading about it in their newsletter and on the Kickstarter, but some really, really interesting stuff happening there. And then they partnered with Rewild, which is the cool part about this game is that it's real life. Like this organization is actually going out and searching to see if these species are extinct, and to make sure that they are still alive and present and everything. So and the game is great. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah, I was able to I played it on Rado's channel. I live streamed it there, and I was actually fortunate enough to get one of the designers, Matthew O'Malley, to join me. So we got to go through it together, and he was talking about how the game works and stuff. So it was really neat to get his insight on it. And yeah, like you, I was I'm not the biggest deduction fan, but I really love Search for Planet X, and this one takes it up to that next level. Right? It's got that like spatial element as far as like trying to figure stuff out. I think it's they give you that little piece, right? That it's like 4 hexes put together, and you're trying to figure out where those are, right?
Yeah, the birds, and I can't remember what they're called. But yeah, the birds are in some sort of formation. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, very just another, rock solid design from Matthew O'Malley and Ben. I always want to say Ben Pinchback, but he corrected me.
Ben Rossett, right?
Ben Rossett. Thank you. Yeah. So it's already funded on Kickstarter. It's going to be another big hit for Renegade. Yeah. I love the fact that they're partnering with that organization and just trying to, keep things greener and greener. I like to see when companies do that, so I think we'll see more of that in the future.
Another company that's been doing that is Weird City. It's the Eisners.
Yes.
Ben and Tim Eisner. Is it Weird City?
I feel like Weird City. It's weird. Not Weird Giraffe. Yeah.
I'm gonna go to BGG because now.
Yeah.
So the most recent game last year was Canopy, right?
Canopy. Great game.
Oh, such a great 2-player game. It
Yeah.
is Weird City Games, but Tim and
Okay.
Ben Eisner are absolutely killing it with this eco-friendly design. And in fact, their next one, the most recent one that they just funded was called Leaf,
Mhm.
and it is also eco-friendly. And
Cool.
I actually had a chance to play test Leaf years ago with Tim at a design retreat. And it's just so clever with the way that you're using the leaves to score points. It's kind of like a pseudo area control and set collection, and there's some
Nice.
really cool stuff happening in that game. But yeah, so I'm a huge fan of these eco-friendly stuff. So
Yeah. Agreed. Cool.
yeah, and actually, it's been I just wanted to mention that even with Wise Wizard Games, one of the things that we recently did is on our latest Kickstarter, we released character packs and adventure packs, and instead of being in foil, plastic foil, they're going to be in cardboard. And
nice.
so yeah, they're going to be in little deck boxes.
That's great.
And that was something that I was like really. Now, granted, we are still using some plastic foiling and some like expansions that are standalone, but I think moving and at least being conscious about those decisions, I think is important.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, speaking of, I want to say congrats again on a successful campaign, like over $1 million. Is that correct?
It was over $1 million. Yeah. It absolutely
awesome,
blew me away.
Wow.
It was amazing.
So cool. Well deserved.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right. Cool. Over on my end, I got to finally play Point City.
How'd you get?
sequel.
Is that out yet?
No. So they Flat Out Games. I'm partnering with them on my Twitch channel.
Yeah.
So
it's coming out, right?
Yeah. So Flat Out Games. They sent me a copy, and man, it's good. So we all love, or at least I love Point Salad. I love
Point Salad.
Yeah.
Oh, we love Point Salad.
Yeah. So this is okay. So I really like Point City. It reminds me a lot of Splendor. It's got that engine building, really light engine building, but just imagine Splendor without the chips. You're just using the cards. So on one side of the card, you have the resources. You flip it over. It's got the buildings, and you're going to eventually, use resources to build the buildings, and those buildings give you resources, ongoing resources. And I thought that was cool. But then what's really neat is they have civic tokens or civic buildings. If you build one of those, you have each game you choose like 10 randomly out of 20 or something like that. And those civics give you end game bonuses. So
nice.
Like if you have certain types of buildings or certain types of resources, you get 2 points per set. So very, very point salady. Like, hey, if I have, a energy and a coin for every set of those, I get 2 points. Very point salady. It plays pretty snappy, but it's definitely like way thinkier than Point Salad, and I really like that. And I don't get, at least in the games I've played, I played the solo game and I played 2 players so far. So maybe this will change it. It plays up to 4, but I remember Point Salad was, there was a lot of denial drafting or hate drafting sometimes that you can get in. I don't feel like this has it as much because on your turn, you must draw, or from the 4x4 tableau, you must take 2 cards orthogonally adjacent.
Yeah.
And those 2 cards, you're going to take those, and you really want to try to build your engine. So you're not worried about everyone else. Like, oh, I know Derek needs this resource, so I'm going to take it. No, because you really want to build your buildings. And you cannot take a building unless you can build it. So it's not like you can't just save buildings. You have to have the resources to immediately build it.
So that would detract a little bit from the hate drafting, right?
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah, I'm and that kind of leads into a really interesting discussion on game methodology and just kind of like player psychology. It's really interesting. I'm not a fan of games that push players into hate drafting. As a designer on the full-time side, and obviously reviewer in our second hat, like my second job, I think it's so important to push players into positive game experiences and to reward them for clever plays in making their position better, not taking away from another player's position.
Agreed.
And I think that, there are some games that have a lot of take that, but there are ways you can take that without it being this hate draft or this negative connotation to it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's always interested me, again, I'm more on the reviewer side rather than I'm not the designer. So it's always interested me hear how designers approach that, like what are ways that you can do to offset like hate drafting or denial drafting or whatever. And I think Point City does a really good job of that, because you have to take the 2 cards and you're limited. If you cannot, like, if you could take a resource and it's right next to a building card, if you could take those 2, you must. And again, because you're taking that building, that you're saying that you have the resources to build that. So, and just in that, you're more focused on what you're doing rather than what, your opponents are doing. Like, oh, I'm going to take this away from Derek. Well, you could, but don't you want to build up your engine? Like, that's what's going to get you your points.
Right.
So, yeah, it's good. It's really good.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it's out this year, assuming maybe like Gen Con or something. So
yeah, I think that's I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about it. So I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about dates. Yeah, but I do have a copy and I've played it. Yeah, so people are gonna, if you like Points Salad, I think you're gonna enjoy it.
I know it's on the horizon, right? So we should be good. Yes. Yeah. So recently Lizzy and I played over on YouTube. We live streamed Chomp and Sail. So they are fantastic games. We did make, unfortunately, we made a couple rules mistakes. It seems to be happening with a baby.
It's live streaming, man.
It's also live streaming. It happens. So even those slight rules mistakes aside, the games are super, super good. They're very strong. So Chomp is the next entry into their 1 minute teach games, like 1 minute play, where Dandelions and Mountain Goats. So both those titles. Chomp reminds me of Sprawlopolis meets, maybe like another city builder, but you're taking these tiles or these cards and you're placing them over the top of other cards or placing them adjacent. You're trying to create herds of dinosaurs, right? But those herds of dinosaurs have to eat. So if you're not feeding the carnivores, they're going to eat your herbivores. If your herbivores don't eat off of plants, then they're going to end up dying. And then there's a really cool ecosystem there. And then you also draft goals or end of game objectives. So really strong, great artwork, plays quickly. You're looking at 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on player count. And then the other one, Sail, is a 2-player trick-taking game. And it's cooperative. So very, very interesting the way that it works. You're going to play, it's standard trick-taking rules. So you're going to play your cards out, and whoever led sets the winning suit. And then whoever wins, your boat moves towards that player. So you're trying to steer your boat through this, through the sea of islands. And then this Kraken is constantly attacking you. So you have to attack the Kraken to try to survive. And there's a bunch there's like 3 ways to lose, 1 way to win type of thing. Right.
Okay.
So it's tough. Right. And it actually takes a lot of cooperation. Very fun. Cool. And then the other 2 games, this is currently live on Kickstarter. You've got Couture, which is a fashion themed game that looks great. I love auction games. So I'm very interested in that. And then their other one is Mind Space, which is a polyomino roll and write.
Yeah. How'd you find Mindspace? I've heard about it, and I was really intrigued because polyominoes and roll and write. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on their Kickstarter, and I've not played it, but I was really intrigued because we really like the game from Stronghold that is a flip and write that's also polyominoes, and I cannot believe that I'm blanking on the name of it right now.
Yeah, I know it's.
But you flip and it's polyomino based, and you have to fit them in there, right? And it's second chance.
There you go.
Yeah, we really like that one. So Mindspace looks very, very good. Yeah, nice. Basically with and they're all play now. So it used to be BoardGameTables.com.
Right.
They're now all play, and I backed their last Kabuto Sumo reprint and all this expansion stuff, and I'm backing this one all in. Like I want all 4 of the games, and I want all the deluxe components and all that. Yeah, it looks great.
I'm really excited that they changed their name to All Play, because the BoardGameTables.com, it felt like it was time to move on, because y'all are doing way more. You're doing really good games. Let's get away from the
let
tables.
It be its own thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool.
Definitely agree with that. Yeah, go for it. What do you got?
I just played literally today, a few hours ago, before you decided before we record the podcast. Beer and Bread from by Scott Alms.
Capstone.
Capstone, yes. Have you
Oh
played
my
this one?
gosh. Yes.
It's so good. It's already now. Did this game come out this year or last year?
So technically, it was at
Let me
PAX
check.
Unplugged last year. It was at
Okay,
PAX
so-
Unplugged last year, which is
Okay.
unfortunate because it was released at the end of the year. I mean, that's where at least when I picked it up. So there was
Okay.
no room really for me to get it into any sort of top X,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I played it after we'd already in our top 10. So, but oh my gosh, is that game great or what?
Outstanding. Yeah. As much, I mean, I'm already a fan of Scott Alms, right? I love Tiny Epic series, all these other games he's done. But gosh, Beer and Bread is so good. A 2-player game, a lot of back and forth. It's hand management, resource management, and you play, was it 7 rounds or whatever it is, and you're trying to make beer and bread, and it's a cute little theme. But Derek, I love the interplay as far as like, I play a card, then we switch hands, and then we. It's just
amazing.
genius.
Just that,
but it's not. Yeah, and it's like not like that every round. So one round you switch hands. The next round, a market comes out, and you switch cards with the market. And you don't have to. You can just play your cards and stuff. Oh, it's my buddy Daryl taught it to me, and I got to shout out Daryl for this. It's a fantastic game, and it's. I played it too late for
and everything.
Oh gosh, multi-use cards. That's it. It's so.
I love
good.
the way that the game flows from going. So basically, like what you said, play a card, pass, and then the cards you've played are what you have next round to use.
Yes,
that to me, like I was like, how have I never played a game that uses this idea?
Right.
I was like, we are in 2023. It was so freaking cool to be like, okay, the cards I play are what I have next round. Granted, there may be games that have done that in the past, but I sure haven't seen them.
Not like this, yeah.
And the way that you have your multi-use cards that have upgrades that you can place to essentially give you engine building or give you more resources. I mean, all said, Scott, this was, in my opinion, one of Scott's best games that I've played.
Absolutely, yeah, agreed with you right there. I mean, I liked a lot of his games, but this one, again, my first play just a few hours ago, immediately is like, ooh, this is top 10 Scott Alms for me for sure. So, I got to shout out again, Daryl, he gave me that tip at the start of the game. He's like, hey, I played this the first time and I was a little lost, but remember that, you're going to be keeping cards that you play for resources because it's multi-use cards. I get resources this round. It's going to come back to my hand next round. So if you're trying to complete one of those goals in the middle, maybe use it for resources this round. It'll come back next round. You'll be able to use those resources to bake the bread or brew the beer. Oh man, it's fantastic. Derek, I'm glad that we got to talk about this one because I was really excited about it.
I'm very glad that you had a chance to play that one. I played it a few weeks ago, actually. And I can't even think. I'm trying to remember the last time we had a podcast recording, and my whole life right now has just been all over the place with the Kickstarter and the baby, and it's hard to remember exactly when things have happened. But I can't remember. Did we get a chance to talk about the new Garfield? Wayfarers of the South Tigris. Did we talk about that one yet?
I think we touched. I know we've talked about. I don't know if we've gotten in depth with it. And it's funny because folks watching on YouTube, like you can see it over my shoulder here. I've not played it yet. It's killing me.
Okay.
It's right here.
So this is a perfect segue. Then this works perfectly. So basically, like what you just said with Daryl, like, hey, this is your first game. So it is a game. It's a fantastic game. It is wonderful. Caveat. Make sure, because I posted about it on the Spotlight and got some really good feedback from players. Basically, some players felt like they weren't able to do certain things because they didn't know of certain gates, I should say. So in the game, it's a traveling game. So you're going to have to meet the requirements in order to continue by having cards in your tableau. So it is extremely important that you look at the entire route and you look at like what the prerequisites are, because if you're not building towards those prerequisites, you're probably going to have a bad time. And it's unfortunate that, if you're not taught that, and you're not like from the beginning looking at like, oh, hey, I think that should be called out way more importantly. Right. And the person that taught me the game said that. It was wonderful that he said, hey, listen, you have to pay attention to this. Right. So when you get a chance to play, make sure you keep an eye on those prerequisites, because that's going to basically either make or break your ability to continue like moving forward, because it's a race to the end.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
whoever goes to the end finishes it, and then you add up victory points. So other than that, oh my gosh, it was, Garfield, he continues to blow my mind in how he comes up with such unique games.
Yes.
And the best thing that he does, the absolute best thing, which I think is brilliant, is he uses icons in all of the games, and it all
Yes.
matches.
Yeah.
It all matches. So once you learn Raiders of the North Sea, once you learn Paladins or Viscounts or whatever, those icons are repeated, and you continue to see them over the game. So you're like, oh, I already feel like I know what's going to happen here, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there's new icons and there's new things he adds to the game. But that is just such a brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
For them. Oh,
I agree.
It's a great game.
Yeah, I can't wait to play it. I'm glad you mentioned the icons, because in every series, you have the North Sea, you have the West Kingdom, and now we have South Tigris. The games that you play, as you progress through them, you're right, those same icons come over and over. Of course, the games are all different, but there is this familiar. You're just familiar with everything, and it just feels comfortable.
Exactly.
And it's like, I feel like it does make learning the game a little easier, because, hey, I remember this from, Architects of West Kingdom when I'm playing Paladins. Like, it really helped me, learn that. The North Sea series, Raiders of the North Sea, and all the other ones, they all play into each other like that. So I'd love to see more companies do that, for each game, sort of incorporate that. I mean, I know it's easier. I don't know if it's easier, but it's thematically tied in as far as like all his different trilogies. But why not, as a company, use those icons, your unique icons to your company? That way people, once they get one game, 4 or 5 games later, it's like, oh, I remember this from the first time I played this or that.
So we did something similar to that with Tidal Blades, right? So James with Tidal Blades 2, where we took a lot of, I say we, really Tim and Ben and the team, but they took icons and they reused those in Tidal Blades 2, and they also took familiar names and familiar ideas and mechanics and stuff, and they included that in Tidal Blades 2. And I think it's going to be really great when that finally releases, where players who had played Tidal Blades are like, oh, cool, like I feel familiar with this, I know what these symbols are, I kind of get a feeling for what's happening here. And it really kind of breaks down that barrier of intimidation of like, oh my gosh, this is so much. But once you can get players feeling a sense of like familiarity, I think that really helps players learn games better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, you think about like, I'm thinking Dominion and other deck builders. There's now like this common language, right? You look at a card face, you have the art, you have the flavor text, but usually you'll have like the price in one corner, the cost of it in one corner. Then in the bottom third of the card has text that gives you the special ability. And a lot of these do that. So it's I play Dominion, all of a sudden that's opened the doors to all these other great, deck building games, because I have that sort of like base or that foundation, right?
Like Hero Realms.
Hero Realms, thank you. Perfect. I set it up, you knock it down, man.
That's right. You gave me a softball there. Which, by the way, pitchers and catchers report.
I was just gonna say, so excited, man.
Opening week, I want to do a baseball stream with you.
We got to do something.
I'm gonna figure out.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about looking at finding a way to do a virtual baseball highlights game with you. And if that doesn't work, then we'll do we'll play Dead Ball together.
Dead Ball. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. We'll just have top down, roll our dice, do our stats.
Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah. It'll be great. But we have to do something to kick off the season, right?
Oh yeah. I think it'd be fun to do. Okay. So we should do a Dead Ball where pick your favorite Cubs team, and then I'll pick my favorite Dodgers team, and we just use those lineups against each other, right? Like,
well, I'm going to go 2016 World Series. James.
Oh yeah.
I got to go with the World Series for the Cubs. I mean, they may not have been the best, but hey.
Yeah, and I'm going 88, Dodgers, because that's the classic. I want Hershiser at his prime, and I want Gibson on 2 broken legs, going out there hitting a home run at the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Dodgers on paper in '88 were terrible. They're terrible. It's one of those things. I don't think they'll translate well into a game, because they had like the worst batting lineup of any World Series champion in history. They were
wow.
They were sub 300. Yeah, they were like really bad. But it was one of those things, intangibles, you know, and
Magic,
that's how,
right?
yeah, just the
Just magic
but,
happens.
yeah, maybe I'll have to go with the 20 Dodgers. Yeah, maybe something more recent. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
You have plenty of time to think about it. I was gonna say too, it's funny. You know, the Cubs got Bellinger, so we got a Dodger
That's
over
right.
on
Yeah,
the north
Cody.
side.
It's funny. The last few years with Bellinger, I've had this like love-hate relationship because, you know, it's like I love him because, you know, he's always swinging the fences. I hate him because he's always striking out. And, you know, you just go back and forth. And there's a running joke in my family, you know, that, hey, Bellinger's my boy. That's my dog. And then, you know, he strikes out. It's like, oh, we should trade him. You know, we got to cut him. You know, so it's like,
when he's
I'm
good, he's great. And when he's not, when he's cold, he's cold.
Yeah, get him off the team. Yeah. But
yeah, no,
I hope he does. I hope he recovers. I felt like, and not to turn this into a baseball podcast, but I felt like Cody, right after that, he did that thing where he separated his shoulder when he like bashed arms. He's never been the same since then. So I'm hoping after a few years here that he's okay for y'all.
Yeah, I mean it's a 1-year rental type thing, right?
Yep.
So we're kind of just, it's kind of like a low risk, high reward if it pays out type thing, right?
Totally. I mean, former MVP, why not?
Right. I mean, his defense is still strong.
Oh yeah,
So he's gonna immediately make a better defensive lineup, but
Definitely.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. You know, the
Same.
Cubs are not. I think they have like a 13% chance to win the Central Division, so we're not really going to be very competitive this year. But this year is predominantly going to be bringing up prospects and getting them developed and looking at our 2024 roster, really. So we're still a couple years away from what we would consider to be any sort of like playoff contender, but we have such young talent. I'm really excited to watch them.
That's cool. Yeah, that's what it's about. You know, get your farm system. You know, get those young players up, and hopefully. Well, you know, we've still got time. We're all in first place right now, so the season's
true.
You know, so stay excited until then.
That's true. Yeah. Well.
We'll make something work as far as some kind of baseball game stream, whether it's highlights or dead ball or whatever. We'll do something.
For sure.
Cool.
So let's dive back into board games. Thank you for our little sports talk radio there. So I'd like to talk about small groups and board game groups. So Lizzy and I, for the first time since moving, was able to go to a small board game meetup, and it was really fun. There were some things that was very interesting coming from the hobbyist world. You know, we as gamers, and if you're listening to this podcast, I consider you to be a hobbyist gamer. We are really, once you've been into hobby board games for even 6 months to a year, and you've really fallen down that rabbit hole, you quickly forget what it was like to be on the other side of that. So we go to the small group meetup, and a lot of the games they have on the table, there's probably 20 people there. We're classics: Uno, Monopoly, Pictionary.
Oh wow!
Phase 10. You know, very very mass market, right?
Yep.
And so I think it's really interesting how we forget that is what most people know. Right. You know, when they think board game, they think apples to apples. They think Clue. They think Monopoly. They don't think, you know, in the terms of Twilight Imperium or Scythe or Wingspan. Now it's getting there. Right. We're starting to see a lot more crossover and Targets and Walmarts and stuff. But man, we still have a long way to go. If you're talking about just kind of spreading the love and spreading the message of board games. So we went to the small group. It was great. So we're playing, we played a game of Uno with 8 other people. And it was honestly, it was about breaking down the barriers, you know, ice breaking, talking, getting to know people. You know me, I have no chill. So of course we're straight into talking about board games and the industry. And then they're like, oh, do you work? And I'm like, yeah, I work in the industry, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. They're like, oh, you better not lose. And I was like, hold on a second. That's not how this goes. Just because I do this doesn't mean that I am like amazing at games. It was super funny. But anyways, we ended up after Uno, I was like, you know what? I brought a game that I think you will really enjoy. And we brought out Green Team Wins. And
nice.
I was like, you know what? This is the perfect. I even looked at Lizzy at the beginning of the night when I saw what was on the table. And I was like, you know what? I think this is a green team wins type of crowd.
Right.
And I had brought, it was funny. I wish Lizzy was here. This story is great. She told me yesterday, she's like, I was like, oh, I'm going to go pack the board games. I've got my board game bag and stuff. She's like, no. She's like, you take 3 games. You get 3. And I was like, okay, cool. 3 for you, 3 for me. She's like, no, I pick 0. So you get 3 games. And I was like, okay, all right. So I picked Skull King, which I thought euchre style. Didn't get a chance to play it. I brought Super Mega Lucky Box because I feel like that is could be good, you know.
Yep.
And then I brought Green Team. So of those 3, once we assessed where we were like, you know what, this is a Green Team wins crowd, and it was awesome. We had so much fun. Everybody was super nice. Everybody was. I'm really looking forward to. We played. I think there were 5 or 6 of us. There were 6 of us. I really can't wait for next time. It's every other week to do a larger group game of that because I think there's going to be more people there that are going to really like it. Yeah. And it was a hit. You know, it was just fun to be able to see people's interactions and laughing, and it's just a great way to ice break, right?
I love that. I want to point out one thing for people listening. I think this is what you did, Derek. You did something that's really important as a hobbyist going to a game meetup like this, where you're not really sure, but you did something really, really thoughtful. And I want people to remember this. When you go to these type of meetups, read the room and see what type of crowd you have and be prepared. So 2 things: read the room, be prepared. So you saw, obviously, you're playing Uno and stuff. You aren't going to bust out, Scythe or whatever, but you were prepared. You had Green Team wins and said, and that's such a perfect fit for that type of situation. Yeah. And sure enough, you played it. It probably took you less than a minute to explain it, or maybe 2 minutes at most, right? And so I think that's really important in those type of groups, because the less time you spend explaining rules and getting the game, the more engaged people are, because seriously, if you even go like 4 or 5 minutes to a new gamer group thing, they're checking out. Honestly, they're going to check out. It's like, this is a lot harder than Uno, Derek. What are you, doing to us? So you brought the perfect game for that situation. I think it's, as gamers, we should really consider that. Go to a game meetup. If you don't know, bring your Scythe or whatever. But in your back pocket, have those just in case you're not really sure what type of crowd it is. And that's a perfect example, man. So kudos to you. That's great.
Thanks. A lot of these meetups are, you just don't know what you're going to get. You could have just a huge diverse group of people that are anywhere from Uno up to, honestly, heavy Euro games like Lacerdas and things. So you just never know. So just have a variety available, right? And it went really well. So and that leads to, so that story is kind of the lead up to what I want to talk to you about, is when you go to a board game group or a small meetup, like, what are some things that you would feel comfortable bringing for those types of situations, right? What do you think?
Yeah. So again, just to reiterate, what you just did was perfect. Have that variety of games. So you don't know what type of group you're getting into. But for me personally, I will bring that bag of games. I try not to bring more than one bag, just the one, board game bag. But as an Omni gamer, it works because I like to play all types. So, I'll have something heavy, something, complex or whatever, but then I'll have a lot of Gateway and Gateway Plus games. So, just reading the crowd, like, oh, is this a Ticket to Ride crowd, or is this, a crowd that can play, Scythe or whatever, or is this crowd, like you did, Green Team win. So I will have a couple of filler type games that are, easy to understand. And, one, I don't remember if we mentioned this last month, but a mass market game that just came out that I've been in love with since PAX U is Mantis from Exploding Kittens. I think Mantis is one of the best mass market games produced in the last 5 years. It is outstanding. It reminds me a little bit. Remember that game Push? The Push Your Luck game card game?
I loved Push.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that with set collection, but it's so... Okay, wait. Did you play the game Gacha from 25th Century Games?
Yes, I played Gacha.
It's a more streamlined version of that, Derek. It's more streamlined. So you have a deck. So it's from the guy that did the oatmeal, right? So it's got his little
of course.
Mantis shrimp. So there's all these different shrimp you're trying to collect, right? It's super cute art. It's funny. But all you're doing is you have a deck of cards, and on each back of the card, it has 3 different types it could be. So you're going to say, okay, this could be either a purple, yellow, or green. I'll say it's a green, and I'm trying to add it to my collection. I flip it over. If it's a green, it goes in my collection and I score it. If it's not a green, it goes in my collection. I have to try to guess that color later on. Or I can try to steal. So I'm going to say, I'm going to try to steal Michelle's yellow card. This card has a yellow, blue, and black. I'll say this is yellow. If it's yellow, then voila, I've taken her yellow into my deck. That's it. You're just trying to race to 10 points in your hand. Plays in like 5 to 10 minutes.
No kidding.
It is so perfect. I love this game. And I played it like, I don't know, 12 times in less than it's taken me probably 30 minutes or so to play 12 different games.
Wow.
It's so good. I
had not heard of it. You're the first person to mention it.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either. At PAX U, I ran into some friends, and one of them, Aaron from Game Enthuse, he said, hey, I want to teach you this game. I was like, cool. And we played, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is way better than I thought it would be. And when I got back home, I think a couple of weeks later, early January, Exploding Kittens just posted on social media, hey, we're giving away Mantis. All you have to do is pay for shipping. We're like, what? Okay, I paid $7, got a $20 game mailed to me 2 days later.
That is too cool.
It's so cool. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I have that game from now on. Any game group meetup that I go to, I'm going to have that game just in case we have Uno players, because I think this is even easier to play than Uno. You don't even have to hold your hand. You just have your cards right in front of you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring that to the meetup. Yeah, because I mean, right now, that's where we're at. So it's really interesting being able to assess, okay, so where's this group at? So so you're able to look at, okay, cool. Most of these people are on the Uno Pictionary type level. One of the guys talked about playing Risk with his his buddies and stuff. So you can kind of feel that out. So now, once I come back from that meetup, I'm thinking, okay, cool. You've gathered information, right? You kind of did your recon. And you're like, yes. when we meet back up, what are some things that I think might also go over well, right? And it's definitely right now we're in that crowd of 5 minute or less teaches, right? So obviously a lot of card games are going to be big hits because a lot of those don't have a lot of complex rules. So I'm going to look at that type of stuff. And we only play for about 2 hours. So, you can't really get into a large game. It'd be much easier to have a lot of smaller type filler games where people can come in and out and stuff. So,
you're definitely not going to bust out Terraforming Mars or something like that.
No. And it's not the crowd for that right now anyways, right? But I mean, the hope is now that we've gotten to know people in the community, that maybe as we start teaching them games, maybe some of them get hooked and they're like, hey, I'd like to learn about this. Or I saw somewhere, I saw Wingspan. What's that about? Hey, nice. You want to play it? That type of stuff, right? That's cool. It's just about kind of keeping yourself open and available. And I'm also an Omni gamer, right? And I know not everybody is, so you can't really be like, oh, well, just have everything available, because some people don't like to play filler type games and small games and stuff too. But I feel like for me and my personality, I do love that type of thing, and I love just being a board game evangelist. So, I'm just really about spreading fun. And even if that fun is playing Uno and getting to know people, and then teaching them Green Team Wins or this Mantis game you talked about, I'm going to look for some fun dice games. I'm thinking, honestly, I think zombie dice would go over well with this group, right?
I think it would be perfect for that group. Yeah, zombie dice is fun. Yeah.
There's just some push your luck type games and stuff. Yeah. So I've got some really exciting ideas to come up with for this net. We don't meet it's every other week. So. Okay,
nice. Yeah. And you can look at that, different mechanisms that you'd like to teach, show the group. You got your dice chucking, you've got card drafting or set collection, but very simple versions of these, like Tile Lane. Why not play Suro? That plays up to 8 players. It takes 15 minutes at tops, and I use that for a lot of gaming meetups for introducing Tile Lane to folks. I want to highlight another thing that you did, which I think is very important for us gamers going to these groups. Listen to someone say, hey, I play Risk, blah, blah, blah. And, we're sort of like game sommeliers, right? We take in the information, and based on your taste, we're going to recommend something, for further down the line, maybe, So, again, the standard with Risk, maybe you can try Small World, or something like that, But with all these new games that we come across, I think it's cool for new gamers, because we're going to be, we're always constantly looking for something to get them deeper into the hobby or into the hobby, and bring these new games based on our knowledge of all these classics, right?
And that's why every year I get so excited about gateway games. Honestly,
Yes.
like some of my
Mhm.
favorite games of the years are gateway games.
Mhm.
And things like Acropolis, right?
Yes.
Or games that are just easy to teach, easy to get to table. Even though I've been in the hobby for, X amount of years, and I love, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love to get a Lacerda game to the table. But I know that the opportunity for getting that to the table is far less than if I were to get a group down together to play something like Acropolis or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I've got like those types of games that I kind of like get together with my board gaming friends where we actually set aside like AJ Novacek and Simon Mounsey come down to my place and we play games maybe once every 2 months or something. And I know that those guys are gonna be like, yeah, let's go throw Weather Machine on the table and let's
Yeah.
go.
There you go. Yeah. And that's the, you have, all these different friends. They all have different tastes, right? So, the friends that you can play,
Right.
brass with or,
Yeah.
the Lacerdas with and stuff like
Well,
that.
even Lizzy's
So,
that way, right? Like Lizzy
Yeah.
doesn't love everything.
Mhm.
And there are game styles I know that she just won't enjoy.
Mhm.
And so I gotta find people that I can play those with.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that's why, I'm grateful for Michelle because number one, she plays games with me. But number two, she's really enjoys Gateway and Gateway Plus. That's just her jam.
Yeah.
After work every day, she doesn't, she's, I'm not going to pick up a Lacerda and put it down. Like, hey, let's play. No, she's not into that. So, I respect that. And I'm like, it's cool because I still have my, I can still dip into the waters of Gateway and Gateway Plus games and knowing that I have a partner to play with. And, it really does make me appreciate those games because these are games that are easier to understand, and
Mhm.
are easier to get to the table,
Mhm.
frankly. So those are the games you're going to bring to those meetups, and I'm excited for them.
So there was a game I picked up last year at PAX Unplugged that my friend Isaac Villa told me about, and it's from Blue Orange. Did you ever get a chance to play Downtown Farmers Market?
No, but I've heard so many good
You
things
got
about
to
that.
Ruel, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, you and Michelle are going to love it. I'm telling
Oh,
you, it is
nice.
such a great little game. Like it packs a serious punch for just like, I'm talking, it's small, right? And it's
Nice.
tiles, and
Yeah.
you're trying to draft tiles in order to gain, I think it's money. But like basically, there's different challenges and stuff you're trying to meet. It's fantastic. You got to
Yeah.
get a chance. And if you're at Gen Con or something, um, I would try seeking that out to try to get a chance to play it because I think
Will do. Yeah, I've heard nothing
yeah.
but good things about that, and
Yeah.
I always love Blue Orange games. They're just the quality of the production, components, everything. Always great games.
Yeah, they are. So let's go into our sign off here and talk about a few games that you might be excited to get a chance to play here in the near future. So, basically, what are 2 or 3 games that you've got kind of in the queue that you're like, oh, I'm really excited to learn?
Yeah, and if you're watching this YouTube, folks, you notice me turn over here to look at the shelf of opportunity here. Stuff that I've got. Let's see. Oh boy.
Well, here,
That's
you
a
think
good
about it.
question.
I'm going to talk about the one I'm excited for. So
Okay,
I
cool.
just got a chance I just got Onslaught from WizKids. And
Oh,
Onslaught
okay.
is a
Yeah.
2-player PvP PvE game. Super, super excited for it. I'm going to TantrumCon next week with Lizzy and the family. We're taking a
Oh,
vacation.
cool.
First vacation in a long time. So we'll be at TantrumCon all next weekend. And I'm bringing that to play because my friend Isaac Villa just wants to play it as well. He's got it. He's been learning it. And it's by Nicholas Yu, who did Adventure Tactics. Yeah, dude, the game looks
Nice.
so good.
That's cool.
And the fact that it's not just PvP, basically like where you're trying to defeat your opponent, but there's also missions and objectives that you can try to be the first to complete on the board is
Mhm.
another way to win. I think that's brilliant. I love that idea because for players who may not be into the totally head-to-head skirmish, having kind of this alternate win condition is really nice.
Yeah. Cool. I just thought of one that I'm looking forward to. It's on it's in shrink right now, so I've got to get it out of shrink. But it's from Devere Games. And it's called Bamboo.
Ooh.
Yeah, this game is from Herman Milan. He is the designer of Bitoku. So this is the
Okay.
next one from the Bitoku designer. What I've seen, it's not as heavy as Bitoku. It's a little more, I don't know if it's Gateway Plus, probably a little higher than that, probably medium weight or whatever. But you're harvesting bamboo, trying to, improve your town and stuff.
Oh, this looks adorable.
it looks gorgeous, right? And one thing, I got the box, and it sort of reminds me of Red Cathedral, where it's a smaller box than you'd expect, but man, it's so heavy, and I know it's packed with good stuff in there, and like I like that where they don't have publishers don't have to get the big old box and stuff to just pack that box in and put a solid game into it. I'm happy.
Devere is such a great company, and they have done that with like Paris. Oh my gosh, Paris is a top 10 2-player game for me.
Yeah, have you played the expansion to Paris?
I have.
Okay. I haven't played that yet. Michelle and I love Paris.
Oh man,
the expansion's good.
Throw it in. Okay. Yeah, throw it in. Nice. Devere is so good, and in fact, that's funny you mentioned that. We had just played a game a couple weeks ago from Devere that's coming out this year called Savernake Forest.
Oh, how was it?
Oh, it's great. It was
cool.
So great.
Cool.
It falls in that category of games I call relaxing. Like where it's very peaceful. Like Kohaku is kind of that game where it's not overly competitive. I mean, there's still a winner, but it's so cute and it's nice and thinky and it's quick and it just is. Once you finish playing it, you just kind of sit there and you're like, that was really. I feel good, right? It was a feel good game. So I definitely would recommend getting a chance to play Savernake Forest for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So in that same package, I got Bamboo. I also got that Savernake Forest as well. So I read, I think, the rules online. And had you ever played Karuba, the card game?
I have not, no.
Just the rules based on it. So you're, from what I understand, you're laying cards down and connecting a path, trying to get. Okay. That reminded me of Karuba, the card game. Where you're just trying to connect, certain things to certain other things. But this one definitely looks a little more complex. And
you've got certain resources and icons, and like each of the animals will want to eat certain things. And there's some really nice long-term planning that's included in the game. So it's good. It's fun.
Awesome. Cool. I've got one more to talk about that I'm super excited about. I did this thing yesterday, Derek, which was really fun. I've never done anything like this before. So I got to hang out in LA with Josh Wood, designer for AEG. And we went to Little Tokyo in LA and walked around and sampled Japanese like street food. And we talked, and we had Bonzinator from our Twitch channel. She was filming us. So we're doing this sort of like lifestyle type of video, just talking about Japanese food, because they're going to edit it and they're going to make a little lifestyle vlog for his upcoming game, Let's Go to Japan.
Let's Go to Japan. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
Did you get to see it at PAX Unplugged?
I did. Yeah. So folks that don't know, Josh Wood, designer of Cat Lady and Santa Monica. Yep. I love Santa Monica, just a very cool tableau builder. And Let's Go to Japan is a new one coming out on Kickstarter. So this video that they brought me out for was just sort of like just to build the hype. I don't know when it'll be out, but it may be out by the time this podcast goes out. But oh my gosh, it was so much fun doing that, and just knowing how much time, like Josh Wood actually wanted to do this. He wanted to take a trip to Japan right before the pandemic. So he was starting to take Japanese classes. Then the pandemic hit. He had to cancel his trip to Japan. So he was so bummed. He's like, I'm just going to make a game called Let's Go to Japan. And based on that, he continued taking classes. So he's been taking Japanese classes for 2.5 years. So when I got to meet him in person, finally, we've only talked, on video before. Like, he could speak Japanese, and we went to these places, and he was, we filmed us, and I was talking about my experiences visiting Japan. He's talking about his upcoming trip to Japan, and he was actually breaking down Japanese words as we're eating the foods and stuff. Oh, it was like the best experience ever. So much fun, and it's gotten me hyped for the game because I know it's gonna be a good game. He's a great
I can't wait to see that video. That sounds great.
It was so much fun, and just being in LA, and this is where I'm from, and just going to Little Tokyo, which I've always loved that part of the city. Oh, it was a blast. And so Let's Go to Japan. That's going to be out Kickstarter later in March, I believe, after mid to late.
I know you and I we've talked at length about this, but AEG is it's one of my top publishers. Like,
same,
the stuff they do is solid. I mean, I have very rarely been disappointed by an AEG game I've played. And they've put out some of my favorite games. So, I mean, I'm very excited to see it. Basically, they're a company where if they're releasing a game, I'm instantly going to want to play it.
Agreed.
It's just one of those things. So,
Mhm.
and so this is interesting. I just got Hamburg from Queen's Games from
Ooh.
Kickstarter. Haven't
Yeah.
had a chance to really do anything with it because literally unboxed it like a few hours ago. So I'm excited for that. And then we just got we're gonna get the new expansion for Disney's Sorcerer Arena. So it's the Lead the
Oh.
Charge with Buzz Lightyear and Elsa, and I'm very, very excited for that because I
Nice.
love Buzz Lightyear. Elsa's cool, and I think it has Scar. Yeah, it has Scar from Lion King too. So
Very
really
cool.
excited. I'm so happy for. I think literally Sorcerer's Arena is going to be huge for the op. Like it is going to be their long term, and it's such a good game that it's going to continue to do well because of how good the game is, and they have such an awesome cast of characters they can pull from.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the op because I love what they do as well. Again, they're definitely tapped into the mass market, right? They have all the
Right.
monopolies, the Yahtzees, and everything else. But then they have these games like you're saying Sorcerer's Arena or Apprentice or what's it called, Sorcerer's
Disney Sorcerer Arena, yeah.
Arena, yeah, stuff like that where the IP and the type of play appeals to the mass market, but it's good enough. Well, I mean, good enough, or it's just complex enough, or just engaging enough for gamers to get into it as well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's to me that's like the best of both worlds. So I think that's great that they're doing that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's a whole ton of other games I'm excited for. But at
Yeah.
TantrumCon, we've got such a long list of games we're going to play. Of course, with any convention that you're going to sit down and play, we've got way more games planned than we have time.
Yeah, of
but
course.
it'll be exciting. So I'm hoping in March to kind of recap a lot of TantrumCon in the next podcast. So that's what I'll be doing.
Nice.
So.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, I'm excited. And then I'll be traveling to a lot of conventions this year. So we have Gamma coming up. We'll be at PAX East in Boston next month. Basically from here on out, the year has started. The convention circuit is in
convention
full
time. Yeah.
Oh man.
Now you're not doing Dice Tower West, is that correct?
I'm not. No, I would love to get back to Dice Tower Prime or Dice Tower Florida. One of my favorite conventions to go to. So I need to get back out there I need to get back out there because there's a whole segment of gamers that I never get to see because you're on the West Coast.
Exactly. Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
we got to get you out here somehow.
Absolutely.
Some way.
Yeah, we'll do it for sure.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, any other parting shots you have? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, let's see. So it is February 17th when we're recording this. So that means by the next time we record this, the new season of The Mandalorian will have kicked off.
Yes.
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 I had to sneak in Star Wars somehow.
I was considering it. We're going to be talking Mandalorian. We won't do spoilers, of course.
Yep. Agreed.
And the other thing too is Ted Lasso season 3.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. Yes. And it's supposed to be the final one, correct? Final season.
It is. So the way that it's written, it'll be bittersweet. The way it's written is that it's the final series of this story, but they have said that it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of characters. So there could be spinoffs.
Yeah.
But for this cast and this story arc, it is the end.
Ooh,
which I think is great because they've already pre-planned this. So they know there's, man, did you watch the teaser for that? I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I was like,
yeah.
This is just, I don't know. I'm not ready for it.
Yeah. It's I know the emotions have already started, right? It's like, getting all the feels already.
Oh my goodness.
I agree. I like the fact that they have their set seasons and it's like, you know what? I'd rather have a show go out like that on top rather than like, let's extend it for another season because the ratings are good. No, you have your story, stick to it. And then, maybe spin off or whatever. That's fine. But, let's, keep it. I mean, those first 2 seasons, some of the best television I've ever watched in my life. Seriously, it's a top 3 show probably for me all.
It's after I think our 4th or 5th rewatch, it's my favorite now. Yeah.
Nice.
It's my favorite TV show. I just, every time it has all the ups and downs and all the highs and lows of life, and no matter what though, there's the message of positivity and being in charge and just, no matter what happens, the messages in the show are they're just so good. They're
so good. I agree. Yeah.
So anyways, sorry to derail the conversation there, but we're going to talk about that type of stuff. It's just the way it happens.
Liz is not here to keep things in order, so
I'm surprised it didn't go off the rails more than it did. Right?
Seriously.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast. I'm excited for next month's podcast already. See you, everybody.
Bye, friends.
And that's it for this week's podcast. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors and our wonderful Patreon supporters. We'll see you next time on the Board Game Spotlight Podcast.